Litnikoff winner, if not finalist. How is this dude not legitimately a 90? Like, he's like an 87. Edelman is like an 89. He's better than Julian Edelman. It's disrespectful. It's quite disrespectful. So I would definitely say Brandon Cooks needs to be higher. Keenan Allen should definitely be in the 90s. They have his deep route running is like a 77, which is trash because he beats people with his route running all day. Like he was a 5-star receiver coming into Cal. Everyone knew he was an elite route runner. That's been his deal since Cal when he was playing with his half brother Zach Maynard, and he was still putting up all American type numbers. Keenan Allen's never been a bad route runner. His route running is elite. And honestly, he ran a 4.7. He should be happy that he had like 87 speed. Now, his strength should be stronger because he ran like a 4.7 coming out of college. He was not fast. He was not a burner by the slightest. But he has game speed. So I give him an 88. I even give him an 89. I'm not giving him a 90. He's not a burner. That's just not happening. He gets open with his route running and his agility and all that. So I honestly would say they did him dirty as far as those things go. Now, left defensive end, right defensive end, there's also some distinctions there. Khalil Mack was, I think, the top outside linebacker, which he should have been. Jadeveon Clowney was pretty high ranked. But that's not the reason I mentioned Jadeveon Clowney.
What is the reason?
Exactly. The reason is the franchise tag deadline came up. Grady Jarrett ended up defensive tackle for the Atlanta Falcons, a man who sacked Tom Brady 3 times in the Super Bowl. He agreed with the Falcons hours before the deadline hit. He got his huge payday, 4 years, $68 million on Monday. And it's $42.5 million in guaranteed money. So, shout out to that young man who was a 5th-round pick, and those cats don't get paid on their first contract. He paid now. He got the Brinks truck. Drew Lock signed his rookie deal and didn't know what the quarterback premium pay was. He'll find out in a couple of years if he gets really good and then gets paid, and he'll understand why him and other cats held out for so long. But shout out to him. I think they also got in Kansas State guard. Not Michael Dieter. I forget his name. Dalton Risner. Yeah, Dalton Risner. He signed with the Broncos, too, his rookie deal. Deion Jones, linebacker for the Atlanta Falcons. Yet another player the Oakland Raiders passed on from LSU because they don't know how to evaluate talent, especially if it comes in the form of an LSU defensive player, a linebacker or corner or safety, but you're just stuck with a certain LSU defensive end whose name I won't mention, but we all know who I'm talking about. And if you don't, just go look at the Madden ratings. You'll find out.
Okay.
It gets me so mad. I get so mad thinking like the one LSU guy you take and he sucks. But anyway, Deion Jones, linebacker, has 4.3 speed, was one of the Katrina kids, managed to work his way into LSU and become damn near an All-American almost. Signed a 4-year, $57 million extension with the Falcons. $34 million of it guaranteed. So, shout out to those gentlemen. And because I finally have the time to do it, I'm just going to press all the buttons on the soundboard to see which sound effects I like. I like that. That was refreshing. Okay, trap beats.
It's a little Exorcist.
Oh, we coming back to that one.
A little bit of Psycho as well.
That's a trap beat. Don't worry about it. That's a good one to have.
Yeah.
Yep. Laughter, always great.
Yeah. Bon Jovi.
Of course.
Bon Jovi adjacent, I should say.
No, I just wanted to really hit that trap beat again. That's pretty much everybody listening to us right now who's like, this, where the fuck is Pete? Why is Kenny doing this on the soundboards? Why are you being such a child?
I have a question for you. How was, you saw the new Spider-Man movie, right?
Yeah, it was great. Just Spider-Man PTSD. Like, man, boy, way to kill Tony Stark's legacy after he dies. It's so, man.
How was...
I love Jake Gyllenhaal as an actor.
That was my question.
There was a really great job he did, and more importantly, even better plot dialogue and script. Like, they haven't made a bad Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland. I'll give them that. Kudos to them.
By all accounts. I know. I was curious to know what Jake Gyllenhaal was going to be like, given this is kind of out of his wheelhouse in terms of...
Because he mostly does indie movies, but he cashed a big check with Marvel. Speaking of people trying to cash big checks or even just trying to get back in the fold, Martavius Bryant, wide receiver, former Oakland Raider, Pittsburgh Steeler, and Reggie Gregory, Dallas Cowboy, both apply for reinstatement. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to touch on the CBA stuff at the end of the show. But the NFL, just want to point out, the NFL made about $16 billion in revenue and gave every other team a huge cut of money to spend. So when you get mad at NFL players for demanding more money, just know that the NFL had a huge, massive, stupid surplus. And they gave a bunch of money to all the teams. Yeah. So, okay, so the NFL, they want to hit about $25 billion in revenue. And honestly, once all their TV deals run out in 2021, it'll be much easier to negotiate all their prices again. So, there's that.
So, question on that.
Go for it.
Is there a streaming angle to that where if their TV deals are done in, what did you say, 2021?
Yeah, they already have NFL Network.
Right.
So you can buy the NFL package and stream that. But for when they go back to negotiate for TV deals, they're going to have even more leeway, more headway. Like, fam, look how much money. Like, the NFL is as popular as ever. I hate to say it. It's as popular as ever.
Right.
Now, in the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, the owners get 52% of all football-related income, and the players only get 48%. That's the deal they've been playing under since I graduated high school. Wow. I graduated in 2010, but that deal's been in place since 2011.
Well, when it's that kind of even keel, I don't even know where. Like
52 to 48 is a huge difference.
Okay.
When you're talking billions, especially when the players' rights and they're like to retain their ownership on things. The NFL pretty much is the oligarchy when it comes to that. Like they're you can't. They stopped being a monopoly a long time ago. There's like it's there's nothing you can do. Like and then there's news that came out that they had good talks after these 3 days, but they're probably not gonna come to an agreement by the beginning of the season. Well, everyone knew that,
right?
But my thing is, I don't want to. And I kind of said this on Anchor earlier, like them saying pretty much coming out just saying we didn't kill each other during negotiations, pretty much low key. Like
they were close to.
We had cordial conversations during this 3-day period. Yeah, but it's ultimately going to come down to money and the players wanting you to fork over that power, and we all know that power is not given; it is taken. So that's going to be interesting in itself. But let's get to good old fashioned. One of my favorite games, segments. Now, you can join in on this, Ryan.
Yeah.
If you want. Mostly you're probably going to have tangents because I know you're not really a football guy, but it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Ryan Leaf was hired as ESPN college football analyst. He was a former bust. He's had a bunch of arrests, drug issues, alcoholism issues, all that. Finally gets a job, ESPN. Now, me personally, I think, man, like, it might just be great to be white. Like, you can just fuck up so many times and, like, ruin your life altogether, and you still keep getting chances, even though you probably kind of don't deserve them. Kind of like Ryan Leaf, but hey, good for him, I guess.
Yeah,
like, couldn't give Keely Smith a job? Like, since we're just giving out bust jobs or better yet, I don't know. Like, give one to one of these retired backup quarterbacks. Like,
if there's any of the, I wouldn't say handful, but the slight multitude of things I've ever learned about football in my life is that, there's sort of the culture around who's moving along the discussion itself, i.e. coaches, i.e. corporate, i.e., those few players that have a lot of say in what they can do, and that includes the ones that have a little bit of a interesting background. And then on the flip side of that, you have the audience. And ultimately, it's probably not going to go beyond that unless you're somebody like, and I know you guys have talked about him before, like Colin Kaepernick, where it went beyond just the football sphere. In this guy's case, it's kind of like, I think people watching just aren't going to care. They're just going to be like, oh yeah, I've seen him play.
Former college great.
He's had a couple of rough patches, but he's still, you're really making the grade, as Bowie would say. But
shout out to you and your constant David Bowie references. They're really unappreciated.
I love me some Bowie. He actually had
that was the wrong one. My bad.
That's all right. Oh, that was also really the wrong one.
There we go.
Thank you.
There we go.
So, and I think that's this guy's case. He's got a bubble. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
That's not believe me, I can give a tangent, but like,
we'll save that for your actual tangent.
Oh jeez. Even that one I'm not going to go full bore. That's
don't go. Just
yeah.
Go as far as you need to, as far as you want to. But yeah. So, former Broncos receiver Aaron Burbridge, former Michigan State player and Big Ten receiver of the year.
Gesundheit.
I never had to sneeze and cough in my life at the same time. It was horrifying. Like, wow, I thought I was going to choke to death. That was scary. Anyway, yeah. So he retired, cut from the Broncos. You see this a lot. Cats get cut from teams, retiring. Whatever. Good luck in the next phase of his life and whatever he does outside of football. Robert Ayers retired, played with the Giants, the Broncos. I want to say the Buccaneers at one point. I think he had like 50. I think he's had like 50 sacks in his career. First round pick out of Tennessee so many years ago. He had a niche for himself, so good for him. And he got paid. Wow.
You all right there?
No, I don't. That was weird. I had like cotton mouth just now. Okay. Anyway, so Cardinals cut Desmond Harrison after he was issued a felony warrant. He allegedly, or at least what it says, choked, beat up a female. I think he's facing like 8 more minor counts of battery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My take, this dude's been a problem since he came. He's been a problem for years. Like, coming out of Texas before he got drafted, everybody was like, he's going to be a headache. Can he keep his head on straight? He has this otherworldly athleticism. He started 8 games for the Browns. Damn, this is annoying now. I think somebody put a hex on me. This is ridiculous.
I can think of at least 3 people we know that did that.
Yeah, they could try. But if I put a hex on them, everyone will know it because it'll Yeah. Never mind. We're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, we're not.
I almost said something just now. Never mind. I don't lose my train of thought that time. But yeah, so Jimbo Fisher, SEC Media Day, Texas A&M head coach, said he didn't do anything wrong at Florida State, even though he left the program in shambles. There's an article that is referenced in our rundown where it's on Bleacher Report, and it talks about how he let Jameis Winston do whatever he wanted. He coddled him. Pretty much his motto was to the assistant coaches was to, I don't care how you do it, but just make sure all the players are eligible no matter what you do. Left the team, the university, the football team in shambles. They've been bad ever since. And Willie Taggart is doing everything he can to just rewrite the ship. And that's why he's being given so much leeway, because it was a nightmare situation. You got to read that article on Florida State and Jimbo Fisher. The last days of Jimbo Fisher on Bleacher Report. And also Florida State after the fact, what they're doing with Willie Taggart. And Willie Taggart has a proven track record everywhere he's been of being successful and raising the graduation rates. So good luck to him. And I think he's the first black head coach in Florida State history. So I'm rooting for him. There you go. Big 12 Media Day. The Hook'em Horns signal that anyone outside of Texas can't stand. That was turned into the pretty much you put the horns down. The horns down gesture is pretty much going to be seen, and it's going to be penalized according to Big 12 officials at their Big 12 Media Day they had this past week. It will now be a penalty to do the horns down. My take is I just hope they keep that same energy, and anytime Texas scores and they put the horns up, they throw a flag. You should. Like, if I can't do the horns down, you shouldn't be able to do the horns up. No hand gestures. How about that? Let's just take that out. Let's just take that away.
I mean,
you're being petty and childish over a hand gesture.
I'll be honest. That you just said it for me. Yeah, that just seems like it's going a bit too far. I'll put delicately.
Little draconian.
Like, not to harken back to those 3 horrible movies that should never be mentioned, the Star Wars prequels.
I was going to say 3 horrible people we work with, but never mind.
No.
It was more than 3.
So, this is about to get really nerdy for the next few seconds. I apologize. But during the whole pod racing thing in the first film, there's, I don't know if it's like a whole subset of aliens that are doing it, or it's just one guy that they keep showing who does it. But he does this weird, while everyone's applauding, he does this thing where he kind of sticks his arms out and he's kind of moving his arms back and forth he's got these weird prosthetics on his hands.
I think I've seen that.
He's kind of doing this, and he's got a weird face, so he's kind of like, and, I don't know if he's booing or applauding or what it is.
Stroke?
The
rictus? I don't know.
But he's allowed to do it. And even if he's showing satisfaction or dissatisfaction, he's allowed to do it. Yes, it's in a galaxy far, far away, whereas this, you can actually be penalized for, what is it, this?
Yeah, so like the Hook'em Horns, now just put them down like that.
Right, I mean, that's
a penalty.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Texas is real.
Think of it as the evolution of what they did in Rome, where you could either do the thumbs up or the thumbs down.
Yep.
I guess it's just a matter of we're not the captain now.
Texas is feeling themselves since they had that 10-win season this year and beat Georgia in a meaningless bowl game. But hey, shout out to Georgia, because I'm never saying shout out to Texas ever. Also during SEC Media Day this week, Alabama just came out and proved how salty they were by getting their doors blown off in their face and their back kicked in by Clemson. When linebacker Dylan Moses said, the toughest team we played all year was Georgia. We just kind of had some mental breakdowns against Clemson. And I'm like, no, they beat your ass on the field. They soundly beat you on the field. But whatever.
Well, don't forget Georgia's had some controversy this year with reproductive health. FYI.
We're gonna. That's. Yeah.
Not making my opinion known, but just saying.
No, it's just funny because like if Pete was here, I would be saying what you just said.
Okay,
right now.
Netflix and Disney have made some decisions, so yeah.
Netflix and chill in this era is just kind of. Never mind. I'll leave that joke to myself. Never mind. I'm just gonna say one word, Bambi. But anyway, James Conner. Oh, wait, no. I forgot to finish the Clemson thing. So, a Clemson safety came out and said on Twitter the toughest team we played all year was Texas A&M, who got beaten by Alabama. And it's like, why would you say that the toughest team you played all year was the team that beat you soundly and incredibly on national television, the national title game, with all your first-round picks and gaudy receivers and amazing quarterback, and you got beat by a freshman? Like, just say it. Like, you lost. And you got beat very badly. Like, what else is there to say? I think that was really lame for Alabama to do. I think they're sore losers. Nick Saban's proven time and time again he's kind of a sore loser. But, hey, it is what it is. Got anything?
Not really.
Cool. All right, so James Conner came out and said in an interview recently that a doctor told him he had a week to live after his cancer diagnosis in 2015. He beat cancer, but doctor said he literally told him you have a week to live if you don't get this treated. He was still recovering from a torn MCL, and he had tumors all around his heart. So they had to essentially do it because it was Hodgkin's lymphoma. So they had to get. He said it was tough telling his little brothers, his friends. The hardest part was telling people he cared about and he knew. It's like, yeah, so I have cancer and I have tumors all around my heart. Like, that's rough. That would be insanely rough to tell your family members and loved ones. But kudos to him for beating it, rehabbing, and having almost 1,000 yards as a rookie for the Pittsburgh Steelers. 16 total touchdowns, I think, as a rookie. Or 13. He had 12 rushing. I forget how many receiving, but shout out to James Conner. Now, that's over. We have one more. So Russell Wilson is teaching future son how to play football. And a lot of people are coming down on it because a lot of people are coming down, including me, including Pete, about future, Russ, and Russ being the stepdad that is taking care of his kid, even though Sierra may or may not be letting him see his kid. I don't know. It's a lot going on. I don't have time to judge. But is it a touchdown to turnover? Russell Wilson teaching future son how to play football. I'm going to say a touchdown. That's not that bad. It's a turnover. You should be teaching him how to play baseball, Russ. Didn't you play baseball, Russ? I know you football turned out way better, but you should be teaching future son how to play baseball and soccer. More money, less wear and tear on your body. Come on.
I mean, we all remember Space Jam.
That was such a random reference, but it worked, so yes.
Oh, it's been in the news. Space Jam 2. Got Don Cheadle.
What? Don Cheadle's in Space Jam 2?
Yeah.
Fam, is that a touchdown or a turnover? I don't know, man. That's going to be crazy.
I think they also lost their director
Probably.
in the last week. So,
not surprised.
Yeah.
Also, Cordell Patterson, former Raiders receiver, first-round pick for the Minnesota Vikings, was a special teams All-Pro at one point with the Vikings. Won a Super Bowl with the New England Patriots. Pretty much said that Super Bowl don't mean shit to him. Touchdown to turnover. I can see why. I'm going to say a touchdown. I can see why, because it's he wasn't really a role player as much as he probably wanted to on the team. Probably just wanted to play football. The Super Bowl is just icing on the cake. Is what it is. Whatever.
Yeah.
I'll skip these last two. You know what? I think it's time to just get to the rants. So,
well, actually, before we get to that, would it be all right to
touch on low politics?
Just dip into it, just briefly, just because.
Dip your toe into it. I was going to let you just go on a full-on political rant.
Well,
I interrupt you.
I wanted to get some of your take on this as well. That was why we had that one episode where I had mentioned about opening the floor, and instead it turned more into just me talking, which is the opposite of opening the floor.
That's because we let you talk because you're in your politics bag. We don't want to interrupt you. So, I don't interrupt you while you're saying die line. Like when you're spitting your hottest verses, I'm not just going to jump in just to say my little ad lib.
I try not to do that. But at the same time, if I get a zinger, like, I'm not going to lose
and this goes back to journalism and minors and poli-sci being your minor, so go for it.
Pretty much.
I'm going to let you know. Just go on a full rant. Go for it.
Well, like I said, I want to get your take on this as well. It's not going to... This won't be the... Oh, believe me, I've got my PSA.
There we go.
But, so it looks like CNN did their draw this evening in terms of tonight... Or not tonight. The debates coming up in a few weeks. And they're going to have... Okay.
Go on a full political rant. I got to go check something real quick.
Gotcha. So, looks like in a few weeks' time, you're going to have the two upcoming Democratic debates, which, as we all can probably remember from the last couple that we had, first night was a little bit iffy, and then the second night you had, as I had called it at the time, some actual fireworks. In terms of these upcoming debates, you have the opportunity for possibly more fireworks, or at least prepared fireworks, because CNN did a live drawing of all 20 candidates, and that's not including one previous debate one previous debate contender, Eric Swalwell, who dropped out. Now you have, I believe it's Steve Bullock, who's going to be filling in that spot. But this time around, you're going to have two more debates of 10 people, one of which is going to have two of the top contenders, and the other one is going to have the other two top contenders, one of which involving probably the two most progressive candidates, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. I know some people in my neck of the woods who are ardent Bernie supporters have complained that Warren has kind of taken away some of Bernie's votes, hence why he's not higher than they think he would be up against Biden with this many people. And then the other debate is going to be a rematch between Biden and Harris, in which Kamala Harris basically ripped into him and said, look, you said it was okay to work with segregationists. These are guys that wouldn't even let me do my job as a senator. And it took Biden several days, I think over 2 weeks, to actually apologize for that, which I know in this day and age there's this idea that you can't apologize anymore in politics. I know that's frequently talked about. However, I made the point back then that when Biden refers to these men as, oh, they're not racists, what else would you call a segregationist? I that just baffles me to no end. As somebody who has tried very, very hard to understand history, I do find that very troubling. So, it'll be interesting. I don't know, to get to see this next round of debates. I do believe Andrew Yang is also going to be a part of that cabal that's going to be with Harris and Biden, so it certainly should be entertaining to see nonetheless. I'm definitely curious to know what is going to be different this time around. It did seem like everyone was just trying to say, look at me, I'm not Donald Trump. But there's only so many times you can say that. And I think this time around, there needs to be a little bit more clarity. There needs to be a little bit more policy. And just going through the greatest hits from candidate to candidate, I don't think is going to fully cut it with voters. I think you do have a lot of voters that really do want to see some kind of change. But at the same time, you have a lot of voters that are going based off of like name recognition, which is why you have this funny sort of disparity where Biden's the front runner, and yet you frequently see polls where the majority of Democrats want to see a new, fresh face. Well, Biden's been involved in politics dating back to, I believe, the late 70s. So that doesn't exactly say anything in terms of a fresh face, based on that logic. So it'll be up for everyone to see. I'm certainly curious to see how Harris is going to keep moving forward. I know that she's definitely been taking away a lot of Biden's steam in terms of, getting her campaign more recognition, getting more of her message out there that she would probably only get from California, which right now she's leading over Biden. Makes sense. She's one of our 2 senators. But I certainly think she's somebody to look out for, even though, I've had a lot of people talk to me about her background and whether or not that's something to be concerned about. And I think for a lot of people on the Democratic side, that's something that they have to sort of contend with is, in 2016, you did have a lot of people that were outraged over a lot of what the party did in having Hillary be the nominee, even though Bernie was a clear favorite. This time around, you've kind of got something similar to which, yes, Biden is clearly the person everybody knows, but at the same time, you have a lot of other candidates that may or may not have completely spotless backgrounds. And that being the case, even if they don't have a spotless background, you're still thinking to yourself, well, wait a minute, would you rather have somebody who is at least going to be a strong politician or at least be, somebody qualifiable for president with the experience necessary for the job that could beat Trump, who, did not have any political experience getting into the job to say so? That's something everyone's going to have to contend with, and that's something that a lot of people are going to have to figure out with when they head to the polls. So, I don't know. It'll be fascinating to watch. I'm still, the first debate, I was a little bit underwhelmed just because there were some candidates I was eyeing at that I thought were going to be, my approach to this has been to try and give it kind of a sports angle, figure out why people are going to be better than others, et cetera, et cetera. And ultimately, it was just a lot of underwhelming rhetoric, underwhelming policy items, underwhelming everything. And this may be an indicator of where the Democratic Party may be going moving forward. This may be an indicator that the party itself doesn't necessarily understand its voters, or this may be that voters don't really understand the party. It's like Schrodinger's party, honestly. It's kind of all over the place. And, to some degree that's good, but when it comes to a presidential election, when you have a president who is as historically unpopular as he is, it becomes very muddling and confusing, and I'm sure frustrating for a lot of voters that they just want to see him gone, and they're looking at these candidates thinking, man, there better be somebody who can get rid of him. But that being said, if people can't make up their minds, then where do they go? And, of course, that's where you come into the conundrum of having 20 candidates, which, I don't believe. I'm not sure what the precedent is. I know that the GOP side, it's certainly been very chaotic and very full in the past. Case in point, 2016. But it's certainly worthwhile just to check and see how things are going to go moving forward and how it narrows down. Because if it narrows down, that's certainly going to be easier in terms of figuring out who's going to be the obvious front runner by the time we reach the primaries. So, and I know that that's something that in terms of electoral politics, you can run into that issue of is having a split vote going to negatively impact the election, or is it going to help out in the end? I can speak on behalf of, my own neck of the woods that we had 3 Democratic candidates going up against a GOP opponent, and there were people that were saying, oh, so-and-so, these 3 candidates need to join together for a unity ticket. Well, that never happened, and that's largely because the primaries happened and people slowly realized that they weren't going to become the nominee, and the clear front runner made it at the top, and then she made it to Election Day, and now she's our new representative. So, granted, that's 3 candidates. This is 20 candidates. So, KB, my question to you is, in terms of looking at these debates, and if there's anyone in particular that you're sort of curious to see who's going to wind up on top after these debates, who kind of catches your attention?
Honestly, I hate to say it, but it kind of just comes back down to Kamala Harris, Yang, and Biden.
Really? Why do you put Yang up there other than...
Because it's too early to disqualify him, and Kamala Harris is the only one who can actually... They'll look at Elizabeth Warren as like more of the same, more of the status quo. Cory Booker's just corny and like a cheap knockoff for Obama. But people gotta... Oh, shit, excuse me. People gotta remember when Kamala Harris was when she first hit the scene, she wasn't like... They didn't introduce her as like, oh, this black senator. She was like, oh, she's the first Indian senator in California history. Like, they literally marketed her as an Indian. Like, she didn't present herself as black. Therefore, the black community wasn't really holding her accountable as much.
Okay.
And for her base, if you want black women to vote for you, you have to find, well, how do I relate to you? Like, how did Hillary get black women to vote for her? Even though they really didn't. They kind of did.
They didn't. That's the irony with her.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you have to find some kind of coalition, some way to fit with them.
We all know your history of coalitions.
Fam, we got to wrap this up pretty soon.
Gotcha.
Damn you, the coalitions. Yeah, coalitions and unions don't work, but whatever. Anyway,
unions is one thing, coalitions is another thing, but
neither work.
That's another episode.
That's a whole nother episode.
Yeah,
it's a whole nother week. But when it comes down to it, I just say those 3 because Biden is still. I think they still want an old white dude to go up against another old white dude.
Okay,
they're never going to let Bernie in.
I think he had a shot. How many years ago was it? 3?
What is he doing differently?
Right.
That's why I said for his strategy. Like, it's not.
It's the greatest hits.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And people are going to get tired of the greatest hits. People take their chance on Kamala Harris, but young people aren't really sold on the Democratic candidates. Yang, that's why he can still be there, because no one's completely off on him yet, and a lot of people aren't on him yet.
But
he's still growing.
He's at the detriment of having 18 other people running.
Doesn't matter though. Well, I mean,
it does.
That's all that matters. But
not to mention personality matters too. That's also a part of why Trump made it out of more than 20 candidates last time around.
But Yang can still hang in at least until they cut the field. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Buttigieg, all these other people. No, it's not going to happen.
But if
we know it's not going to happen.
If anything, too, when it comes to Yang and a couple of the other candidates and their longevity, there's that one little thing that could arguably keep them until the day of the convention, and that's money. Yeah. I mean, arguably, Joe Biden could be at the bottom of the whole group a year from now, and he's basically still in it because of name recognition and money,
But that's why he's old money. That's my thing. He's old money. He'll be there. I just think it's going to be those 3. Bernie might hang on, but again, it's really just going to come down to one non-white person, Andrew Yang, as an Asian person, but like, he's still growing and developing a base. So he's just a wild card. And then Biden. It's going to come down to those 3 people.
Well, I think the thing you got to remember, too, is that it's easy to tell what Biden's base is going to be, whereas with Yang, there's a large swath of the Democratic Party in terms of like even just people, again, falling back on people where I live, their politics don't necessarily, they may align with Yang, but they might be a little bit more hardcore than he is. But, yeah, it's tough.
But anyway, so gonna wrap up the show.
Good news is my very brief PSA.
He said the good news.
Yes, I did. All right. Very quick.
You want to go first?
Yeah, it'll be very, very brief, I promise.
All right, cool.
I'll make sure I'll get very close to the microphone for this one because it's a PSA I think everyone should adhere to. This applies for just about everything. Journalism, people dating, it's a thing. The whole idea of sending out a message or leaving a phone call, leaving a voicemail, just make sure that you receive something from somebody. It's no different from getting a present from a family member and being like, oh, thank you so much, Aunt so-and-so. Thank you. You have to reply back. You're not going to ghost your aunt for that Amazon gift card, are you? So, basically, and I've had this happen before. If I am going to give you a phone call and say I need to do an interview, the story's going to come out tomorrow, please return the call. And just remember that deadlines are a thing. I mean, it's 2019. I think all of us have seen Glengarry Glen Ross. And if you haven't, yeah, Kevin Spacey's in the movie, but ignore that. Al Pacino's in it. For the love of God, just make sure that you actually answer back because, people have to do their jobs. So, and also people have to live their lives. So for goodness sake, no ghosting. Ghosting's a bad thing. Please don't ghost.
Fam.
Don't be that person.
The parallels, the inside jokes, the double speak. Oh my God. This is the summer of Mancini.
This PSA was like the Avengers of PSAs. It crossed over so much. And yeah, I know, I don't like superhero movies, but you know what? I love me some Batman, so bite me.
I'm proud of you, Mancini.
Thank you.
The group chat is proud of you. He pressed that, I didn't.
This is also the most un-Batman music.
It really is. But go ahead and cut that off now.
Yeah.
Cool, man. All right, so I don't really have much to say. Just, man. Self-care is really important. Like, take care of yourself first. Like, you can try to be all things to all people. Try to be consistently what you are to people, but if you're killing yourself in the process, you need to really rethink that. So rethink it. Do what you got to do. But most importantly, just take care of yourself and each other. That was totally not meant to be a Jerry Springer sign off, so I'm going to try this one more time. Also, if you're seeing someone get their ass beat, please stop recording it in public. I miss the days where people will get beat up for being disrespectful, and then we just move on about our lives. Because, the cops are watching. Everyone's watching. Feds watching. And by the way, Feds went a sweep. Dirty Sprite. That infamous album. I think it's like 2 or 3 years old now. Like this past week was the anniversary of it. Barry Sanders' birthday was this past week. I hope to one day have the flexibility of Barry Sanders' ankles. I strive for it in my life and in my relationships. But if I don't, oh well, screw it. Anyways, touchdowns and tangents. I'm Kenneth Barry, Ozo Grande. Mancini, go ahead, drop your Drop your info.
You can find me at Mancini RA on Twitter, and I'm also on, I think I'm at Mancini Ryan on Instagram. Just my name on Facebook. That's just, no, I'm just kidding. Ryan Mancini on Facebook as well. Where else can you find me? LinkedIn. I mean, you know.
Thought you were going to say Tinder for a second. I was worried.
No.
But nah, man, yeah. So anyway, we'll be back next week, same time. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you learned a lot from this episode. You know, some NFL news, obviously, but sometimes you just gotta have a conversation with people. Really break things down.
It's a big world out there.
Yeah. Make sure you're still connected to people. But anyway, we out. Let's see what I'm gonna play on the way out. No, I'm not going to play that. I'm not going to play that in the show. Not going to do that. Just going to play this.
Are you tired of the same old sports media? Are you tired of hot takes, arguments, and questions that are just completely off base?
Luckily, we have something for you. Sorry for going over. We won't do it next week. I swear. We're going to get back to starting at 8:15. Out, y'all. Peace. Concise commentary.